Today, we're going to the intersections of climate science, high fashion, and one of the most scrutinized names in the business, Jeff Bezos. The Bezos Earth Fund has just committed $34 million into working on the next generation of textiles, fabric that could one day replace polyester and conventional cotton, two of fashion's biggest environmental culprits. At the same time, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez Bezos stepping into one of the fashion world's brightest spotlights as lead private investors on the upcoming Met Gala and its associated exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. All of this comes while Amazon and other shipping giants continue to face criticism over their carbon emissions and package wasting. Is this a new fabric of fashion or for a legacy? As you listen, keep this in mind. When a billionaire whose fortune was built on e-commerce emissions funds green fashions and sponsors the Met Gala, is he really trying to reinvent what we wear or how we see him? Let's start with the grants themselves. The Bezos Earth Fund, launched in 2020 with a mandate to back climate change and nature solutions, announced $34 million in new grants aimed to reinvent what our clothes are made out of. This money is spread across several research institutions focused on the next generation of materials that could stand for rayon, silk, cotton, and polyester, but with lower environmental footprints. One of the headline grants at the Columbia University, in partnership with the Passion Institute of Technology, will receive $11.5 million to develop a high performance textile fiber grown for bacteria fed on agricultural waste. The resulting material is designed to be strong, flexible, soft, and breathable, with requiring almost no land and breaking down without adding microplastics to waterways. The other grants support lab grown biodegradable fibers that mimic silk without petroleum based plastics, gene editing cotton that uses less water and grows in color, potentially reducing the need for dyeing, and broader platforms for testing and scaling how low impact textiles across the fashion industry work. Underlying diagnosis is stark. Materials like cotton, rayon, and silk account for large share. Sometimes some estimates say around 80% of the world's fashion's environmental footprint. If you can change the fiber, you can change the math. What if your t-shirt was grown in a lab, not in a field? Which raises the second question. If the next generation of cotton or silk is comes from bacteria and gene editing instead of farms, does that feel like progress or a new kind of distance between us and the natural world? The new layer on the Met Gala. In 2026, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez Bezos are serving as the lead private sponsors and honorary leaders at the Met Gala, the Costume Institute's blockbuster fundraiser, at sometimes called fashion's biggest night out. Their support also underlines the related fashion exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is notable for quite few reasons. Number one, it's one of the first times in more than a decade that a gala's main financial backing comes from private patrons rather than this public entity. Number two, the couple are stepping into a role historically occupied by old money families like Astors and Vanderbilts, positioning themselves as a new era cultural patrons. And three, fashion media have framed Lauren Sanchez in particular as driving the aesthetic narrative of the event, with Jeff as just the financial engine behind it. Put differently, the very moment the Bezos Earth Fund is handing out grants to re-engineer what clothes are made out of, the Bezoses are also helping shape what the world's most watched red carpet will look like, and how the industry talks about itself in a year dominated by financial anxiety. Can the Met Gala be both a runaway and a lab? So here's the third question. Sustainability grants on one side, fashion's biggest stage on the other. Actually turning the Met Gala into a place where cutting edge materials get the debut, or will it turn into staying mostly old optics and old school grammar? It's worth asking why textiles and why now? The fashion and textile sector is a major environmental player. Intensive cotton farming consumes huge amounts of water, often relies on pesticides. Polyester and other synthetics are fossil fuel based and shed microplastics into oceans and waterways. And dyeing and finishing process can be chemically altering and intensive while polluting the environment. The Bezos Earth Fund argues that if you attack the problem at the fiber level, how the material is grown or even made, then you can reduce the downstream damage. Less land, less water, fewer toxic inputs, and fewer microplastic. This isn't just theoretical, it grants back specific approaches. The bacteria grown fibers fed on agricultural waste designed to be fully biodegradable. Engineered cotton varieties are more resilient and require fewer resources to grow. And spider silk like fibers are produced through fermentation rather than harvested from animals. Jeff Bezos himself has framed as betting on the future of apparel that will be crafted not from cotton or polyester, but rather from fibers cultivated in laboratories. It's a long term wager. The basic ingredients of fashion can be swapped out without losing qualities that people love: comfort, drapes, durability, and maybe even improving upon them. Jeff Bezos. So, on to our last question. Attention. Amazon's footprint versus philosophy. Of course, none of this exists in a vacuum. Amazon has been repeatedly criticized for the carbon footprint of its vast logistics network. Planes, vans, last mile delivery, the volume of packaging and returns associated with fast e-commerce, and critics arguing that environmental impact its own private label clothing lines and fulfillment operations. To its credit, Amazon has launched incentives and funds like Climate Friendly Pledge and Amazon Aware, promoting products made with organic cotton, recycled polyester, and other certified materials. It also touts case studies of startups using AWS to reduce government waste through better data. But critics argue that philanthropic moves, even at the scale of tens of millions, can feel small next to the systemic footprint of global logistics and retail machine measured in hundreds of billions. This is where the optics conversation gets tense. On one hand, Amazon and the Earth Bezos Fund is spending millions for genuinely cutting edge science that many public agencies and companies haven't touched such a scale. On the other hand, fortunes enabling that philanthropy tied to a business model that still drives significant emissions waste. Is that contradiction? Or is that what climate progress looks like in a world where the biggest levers are often held by people with the large footprints? What this could mean for fashion and for business. So, what might come out of this convergence of gifts and glamour? For material sciences and startups, $34 million isn't enough to overhaul the entire textile industry, but can de-risk early stage research, accelerate promising platforms, and attract fellow on capital. If even one of these fibers proves truly scalable on costs, performance, and sustainability, it could become the new standard for brands looking to hit climate targets. Thank you for listening to Business Insights Daily. I'm your host, Shank. So the next time you see the Met Gala or browse a rack of sustainable clothing, it might be worth asking, do I like just like this? Do I know how this looks? Or what is it actually made of? Who's deciding what to invest in making that material? And what is possible with just this? Thank you for listening to Business Insights Daily. I'm your host Sashank. Stay informed, stay ahead, and we'll see you tomorrow.